I, a girl of 17 years old, had to look after the children of my father and his wife for 5 years. My adopted siblings on my father's side are in their junior high school age. However, it is worth noting that they are not his biological children. Yes, I'm pretty sure they are not his children. It doesn't really matter either way, however, it was important for me to mention it. As they get older, one might get the impression that he might have been a father to at least one of them. However, he never showed much parental concern for me. During my childhood, he was seldom at home. My upbringing fell on my mother's shoulders. She tried to maintain the appearance of a perfect family in the presence of others, but in reality, my father was not involved in my life and did not care about me. Every his birthday, without exception, my father showed up at home. He always asked my mother to cook his favorite dish. He also made sure that my mom opened the gifts timed to coincide with the occasion. His presence was constant these days, especially when the focus was on him. My mom became ill when I was 8 years old. At the same time, my dad posted a bond and filed for divorce. Then he left. I had to handle the care of my dying mom. Unfortunately, the divorce was not finalized before she died, so he remained her husband until the last minute. Yes, he was not there for me, emotionally or physically. He handed over my care to a nanny who looked after me until I was 11 years old. After I turned 12, I was considered old enough to be left alone. At that time, my father had moved in with his girlfriend who was expecting a baby. They were not yet married, but later married when their youngest child was about 5 months old. They announced to me that I should take on the role of an older sister and be an example to my younger siblings so that they could develop and live their lives, and so that the children would have someone to look up to. But it soon became necessary to look after them throughout the summer. I tried to find an approach to every situation. It seemed like I was out of options, at least realistic ones. My father's wife was a better parent than he was, although not very involved in the children's lives. She often admonished me for not being warm enough with the kids and how sad they were when I didn't socialize with them. It was more than my father could offer, but still not enough to fully engage with the kids. I have been planning to leave for over a year now. I will turn 18 in May, and I will have finished my schooling. I will most likely go away to a friend's house to celebrate my 18th birthday. I plan to leave and never come back. I won't be babysitting, even though they expected me to. There is no telling if they will find someone else to watch or leave the kids unsupervised. So I decided to let my father know that I would not be able to do the kids this summer. If it's of any importance to his wife, she can find someone else. My father told me that I was the most consistent person in the children's lives and called me an idiot for my desire to step away. He argued that I should stay and fulfill what he and his wife wanted because they had provided a roof over my head for so long. He also mentioned that my leaving would cost him money. His wife started yelling at me for leaving the kids and accused me of making them sad because of me. You've always been the most consistent person in their lives. That's a pretty low bar considering your father. My life was the same when I was a kid. My dad only slept, ate, and worked. My stepmother slept all the time. I had to take care of my siblings. Some might call it helping or showing big sister care, but that's absurd. Your child takes care of your children, keeps them safe and clean while you sleep until 11 in the morning. My entire childhood was spent taking care of my siblings. They were my real family. I was just a kid when I had to give up my childhood. I left at 18 and never looked back. She chose to have the children your father chose, but that's not your responsibility, even though the children are innocent. I'm sorry you're in this situation. I put a roof over your head. That's a load of crap. His job was to raise you, take care of you, love you, appreciate you, comfort you, and prepare you for adulthood. He thinks you should be grateful that he allows you to live in your home while he uses you to cover up his parental laziness and indifference. You don't owe your father or his wife for the bare minimum they provide you with in the form of housing when you were a kid. They failed you. They treated you like free babysitting for 4 years. Now that you've told your father about your plan, make sure you find your important documents and items. Keep them in a safe place, away from them. Next story. I am a 25-year-old female and my husband is 26. Our daughter Amy was born to us. Amy was born with a lazy eye and a mole on her forehead. We never had a problem about it. My sister was always characterized by her rudeness. She could insult someone in public for being the slightest bit overweight, without her even realizing she was saying it to me, making horrible comments to a stranger. My sister recently had plastic surgery and lip augmentation. They were not yet fully healed when we had relatives over for dinner. It was the first time anyone had seen her since the surgery. She arrived almost an hour after dinner started. Everyone froze looking at her. The nurse was in a scruffy state, her face seemed artificial, and her makeup was overly thick. Her skirt was so short that it barely hit anything, even though it was a family dinner with the kids. I couldn't look at her without feeling uncomfortable. The plastic surgery looked awful. Knowing our family, realized they thought the same. My sister acted like everything was fine, and after an hour and a half she started arguing that everyone should have surgery and that we should get rid of ugly and overweight people. Everyone was silent, trying not to spoil dinner. Finally, I couldn't stand it when my sister made a remark about my daughter Amy. She said that perhaps there was an operation to correct the lazy eye, and then Amy could avoid ridicule. She also suggested that we look for a way to remove the mole from Amy's forehead. Her words were harsher than I remembered, but this one in particular stuck out to me. I stood up and, without holding back, yelled that she dared insult my perfect daughter and that she herself had no right to talk about someone else's appearance now that she didn't look her best. My sister cried and left. Dinner had to be interrupted for a few minutes. Family members shared opinions. Some said that although my sister's words were rude, I shouldn't have reacted that way. My husband, parents, and a few cousins supported me, while others rejected my sister. She blocked me on all social media. Her husband, who was not at the dinner, called me an idiot and accused me of driving his wife to depression. He berated me for a long time before he hung up on me and blocked me too. It's been a week since then and neither of them have tried to contact me. I don't feel guilty. I just feel bad that my sister has to experience this until she finds a way to fix her appearance. So yes, I may have acted like an idiot. You're not an idiot, although your reaction at the family dinner was pretty harsh, especially in front of the kids. I realize that. Your sister didn't seem to realize that she overstepped her bounds by suggesting plastic surgery to your daughter. However, that doesn't excuse what she said. You were right to defend your daughter from someone who constantly makes comments about people she finds distasteful. I don't think you are an idiot. You shouldn't have used an insult related to donkeys, because even if they aren't the most attractive animals in the world, that's not grounds for offense. Comparing someone who has overdone plastic and cosmetic procedures to animals is unfair. People who overdo plastic can look unnatural, making even a sea devil seem attractive by comparison. Donkeys are actually very cute creatures, unlike what your sister looked like. Obviously, your sister needs help. Her obsession with appearance has reached an unhealthy level. Her reaction to criticism, despite her outward confidence in her new look, expressed a deep dissatisfaction with herself. It wouldn't be surprising if she decides to have another surgery. Your reaction was overly emotional, but that's understandable. It's probably best to stay away from her until she's dealt with her issues. I feel sorry for her. Now I want to tell a different story. I'm 42 years old. I'm a woman. My son, Ben, is now 19 years old. He was born a girl. When Ben turned 16, he decided he wanted to change his gender from female to male. Initially, neither Tom, my husband, nor I supported him in this decision. It took me quite some time to realize and accept his choice. It was after Tom died as a result of an accident. Only then did I realize how distant my relationship with Ben was at the time. Tom had our then daughter's name tattooed on his arm. We have a picture of the three of us at the beach, me, Tom, and little Ben. Tom's tattoo is visible in this picture. Ben doesn't like it when I keep pictures from his past when he was younger or still presenting himself as a girl. Therefore, I only keep his baby pictures and pictures of the now grown-up Ben at home. However, there is one photo that I refuse to put away. It's that picture of him on the beach. It is very dear to me. Ben's main reason for not being happy is Tom's tattoo, but for me, it is a memory of a happy day and I am not willing to give up that picture. Ben is very upset with me for keeping that picture. He thinks it's cruel of me because the photo is a reminder of his dead name. Tom's edit took place when Ben still identified as a woman. Despite this, I have the one picture of the three of us that Ben still loves. It's the same photo at the beach, where Ben is much younger and dressed in gender-neutral clothing. This picture hangs in the hallway next to my bedroom. It is far away from Ben's room and will not be visible to house guests unless they come into my bedroom. You're not an idiot. This is a picture of your family, capturing one of the happiest moments in their lives. After your husband died, it was a reminder of happier times. You left only this picture of your son at home. Perhaps it was time for Ben to make an honest compromise. It seems Ben could benefit from some serious therapy, given his lack of pictures of his past, including his deceased father. Ben didn't have the best relationship with his father at the time of his death, which has dashed his hopes for future reconciliation. This can be confusing to a person. This is your home, and while Ben is allowed to voice his opinion, you should remember that you are making his being here uncomfortable. Consider that this picture may remind Ben that his father was not supportive of his gender identity and that he did not feel safe during his transition while his father was alive. His father never got to see Ben for who he really is, and this can be quite painful. Having pictures of yourself and your father that are not painful is important. Your happiest memories are undoubtedly of times when your husband was alive. If Ben doesn't like it, he can move out, but that's not a solution to the problem. You've done enough to please him, and you don't even call him by his old name. It's a family photo on the beach with a dead name tattooed on your dead husband's arm. Everything else from Ben's past has been removed. Ben has to learn to compromise and have thicker skin as a trans man in this harsh society. He has no right to bully you because of the photo. My next story. My fiancée Janie and I are currently in the process of planning our wedding. We had a long engagement that lasted 2 years, which allowed us to save up the amount of money we needed. My mom announced her engagement this year around Christmas time and set her wedding date 2 months before ours. Janie was quite surprised to hear this and asked me if I thought it was strange. I didn't immediately understand her reaction. She explained that she never imagined that a parent could get married so close to their child's wedding, because usually all the attention is on the young ones. She is sure that her parents wouldn't have even thought of such a thing. This situation proved to be quite difficult for Janie, as it was for my mom. My mom, being a professional wedding planner with an unlimited budget, while we are faced with the fact that the family only seems to care about my mom's wedding. Recently, Janie had an argument with her mom after she mentioned her upcoming wedding dress fitting. When someone asked if my mom had seen her dress, my mom replied in the negative. Then Janie joked that she wouldn't take my mom to any more meetings so she wouldn't start trying on dresses. Mom asked Janie if she had a problem with her. Janie only rolled her eyes in response. I tried to keep them apart all evening. Later in the car, Janie admitted that she was upset, and I tried to reassure her by admitting my lack of understanding of her feelings. I told her that I loved her dearly, but that she shouldn't expect my mom to treat our wedding with the same priority. Janie chose to shut up and not discuss the subject again. I think I've been inattentive. Mom is very energetic and easily distracted, while Janie is more reserved and shy. Mom focuses on what catches her attention or gives her pleasure, often forgetting other important things, which is not typical of Janie. She is dear to me, but sometimes I voice my displeasure behind her back, which I don't always realize myself. I find it a little strange that your mom decided to get married before you did. It's probably typical of her. Janie must have a hard time accepting it. You've had to put up with her self-centeredness all your life. Don't forget that mom rarely prioritizes you. If Janie realizes that, it will be easier for her in the future. I understand her feelings. Your mom doesn't seem to have much interest in your wedding. Instead, she planned her wedding 2 months before yours. Thus, most of her attention is focused on her event. In addition, your mom is a professional wedding planner and has almost no budget constraints, whereas you and your fiancé planned your wedding 2 years in advance to raise the necessary funds. I imagine you may feel unappreciated because of your mom's lack of input into your celebration, whether it's a financial contribution or utilizing her extensive skills and connections in the wedding industry. As a wedding planner, your mom probably knows wedding etiquette. They say that a 2-month gap between weddings isn't that much time, but it's not that much time, especially when you consider overlapping guest lists. A 6-month gap would make more sense, so guests aren't faced with having to choose between 2 celebrations. Hopefully, Janie won't be unhappy for long about not meeting the expectations of a queen before her wedding. A story that really surprised me. My wife and I are expecting a son. Often we can't agree on a name. My wife, Trixie, likes unusual and unique names. She leans toward choosing something out of the ordinary. She is convinced that ordinary names don't suit her. I, on the other hand, prefer the more traditional and time-honored options. Names like James or Elizabeth seem too common to me, but I appreciate classic names. I don't like the trendy new ones. I associate the name Aiden, for example, with its popularity, even though it's a classic name with a long history. We're having a boy, and we've already rejected a lot of names. Matto is the only name she has approved from my suggestions. Hawthorne and Dexter are names suggested to her, and I said they might be a good fit, but the final choice has yet to be made. We have had many discussions and made suggestions for baby names. It's hard for us to find a name we both like. Recently, my mother-in-law spent the weekend with us. She asked if we had chosen a name. My wife hadn't told her yet because we hadn't come to an agreement. My mother-in-law approached me to ask why I was rejecting most of the names suggested since my wife is carrying the baby. My mother told me that I should be more considerate of my wife's wishes during this period. My mother-in-law called me and expressed that I should try to stress the situation less. Recently, we were told that there is not much time left before the baby is born. Perhaps we should make at least a small list of names before he is born so that we are not left with no options. My wife and I have been frustrated with each other, and this happens from time to time. That's when we take a break from discussing names. My parents have advised me not to reject so many names suggested to her. I feel that things could get worse if I keep saying no to the suggested names. Time goes by, and sometimes parents don't have a name chosen by the time their child is born. They look at their newborn without having decided on a name. I've heard that in India, Iceland, and Greece, parents take their time to announce the baby's name right away. You may not be from these countries, but it is important to stay calm. Please relax and take your time with your choice. I have yet to meet parents who go out in the street screaming because they can't choose a name. You should stop discussing this issue with your mothers if they insist that a woman has more rights to choose a name. This argument seems absurd. Do not allow such arguments to lead to toxic talk that pregnancy gives you more rights to choose a name. That opinion needs to be left behind. It's important to remember that the name is chosen first, followed by parenting decisions. If a child gets your last name, it is already part of their identity. If you are confused by the name Aiden, perhaps you are being overly critical. After all, your wife doesn't suggest overly extravagant names like Moonbeam or Koala. There are name picker apps that resemble Tinder. I recommend you try one of them. You may find that the names suggested by your wife aren't so bad. Maybe you just feel like you should have more say in the matter.